Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Till Death Do Scream. I'm, of course, your host, Mario.
Me, Mario.
Oh, my God.
No, I'm Rob, and this is my wife, Mayhem Mel. What's up, baby?
Come to me. Come.
You are making me so hard right now. First of all, we want to thank you again for your continued love and support. We really do appreciate it. You know, TikTok refugees, anybody, horror fans that are like new to the channel, we know you guys are watching. You know, we're starting to build up a viewership. Please like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. You definitely, you'll get a new episode every week. It doesn't cost you a goddamn thing. Okay? It really does help us out.
Yes.
That's all we want. We just want eyes. That's it. Just eyes.
And FYI, I am a TikTok refugee.
She is a TikTok refugee.
I had to download every single one of my videos. It's...
Yeah, in the words of John Bender from Breakfast Club, BOOHOO. Anyway, we are finishing our bloodsucker doubleheader. It turned out to be a vampire thing because you really wanted to talk about this movie.
I do.
And I'll tell you what, I don't think we have touched a film yet that, I don't like that, if we threw the word masterpiece around, I just think it gets a little tiresome. Because people just kind of like say everything's a masterpiece, but I have to say, this movie's probably a masterpiece. Like, to me anyway. What do you think?
Right. No, I think that, yeah, like it is absolutely fantastic. And of course, we are talking about Nosferatu.
That's correct.
And we all know in the 1920s, there was the 1920s, right? There was the original version of Nosferatu.
All right, well, let's give
silent film.
Before we do that, let's give a little bit of breakdown on Robert Eggers. Okay, so I think me and you became instant fans of him because of The Witch. I remember when it came out, there was like a very deep divisiveness. Like, that's when kind of like, I guess, art house cinema kind of like got introduced to the public and whatnot. In terms of A24 and whatnot. So of course, they're watching this movie and they're just like, a lot of people are just like, this is boring and blah, 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 blah. And, oddly enough, there's a lot of people saying that this is boring too, but clearly we're not watching the same movie.
Right.
Eggers is a historian. He's like a nerd when it comes to history.
Yeah.
This is a guy who basically just pulls from actual prose from the period.
Right.
I think the one thing that I remember hearing a lot about in terms of what he had done so great is that Romani representation in films, especially horror films and stuff from back in the day, weren't very kind.
Yeah.
So the fact that, he actually got the hairstyles right, the old women were actually speaking like really solid Romani,
right.
You know what I mean? That wasn't stereotypical in any way.
Right.
Even down to
their traditions that they had going on,
even down to traditions, but also just Bill Skarsgård, rolling his R's and stuff. But we'll get into his performance. But yeah, Eggers, I don't know how you feel because you haven't seen everything that he's done, but I have seen The Lighthouse, I have seen The Northman, of course. I've seen The Witch.
Northman, I've seen.
I don't think he's made a bad movie yet. I don't think it's impossible for him to do. He's just too damn good. He's like one of those guys that is just on a different bar than other people.
Well, I think he probably picks what he wants to do, knowing what his strong points are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't just take up any old gig just for the money. He takes what he wants to do.
Well, I think the whole thing was he said in interviews and stuff that he'd actually done play performances in terms of Nosferatu, in terms of directing at schools and stuff like that. I think this is something he's actually wanted to do since he was a kid. And what's really interesting about Nosferatu is basically
it's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Theft. You know what I mean? It is absolute theft. It is basically pulled from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yep.
It's pretty much the same thing.
With a few differences.
Except the names are changed to protect the innocent.
There's a few differences. It's not as romanticized as Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Well, here's the thing you got to remember too. The romantic aspect of Dracula actually came more from the Hammer horror films, Christopher Lee, kind of, had this like kind of vicious animal aspect to his Dracula, but also kind of like this love situation. But it really, got like amped up to 11 when it came to Francis Ford Coppola's version. I think that's really when, people were expecting Dracula to just be this romantic love story or whatever.
Right.
But I don't think it really was before then, honestly. And I think the thing that Eggers was trying to do with this particular version is really just kind of more focus on like folklore.
Right.
Like,
of what Nosferatu, what a vampire really is.
Right.
And what they are is appetite.
Like even having this, mustache. This is what a Transylvanian nobleman would wear at that particular stage. You know what I mean?
Even if you look into history, Vlad the Impaler had a mustache.
That's correct.
Yep. You can Google it,
So, real quick, I don't want to get too much into it, but, like, of course, Nosferatu is, just world renowned, for being one of the first silent films ever created. And, like, it was filmed in 1922. F.W. Murnau was the director. It was filmed in Germany. There was actor named Max Schreck, who played the character of Nosferatu. And, like, I think that particular film is more of like, I think it's more of like a visual journey. Right. Than it is, say,
Well, because it was silent.
Well, it was silent, right? So you're just hearing the music and stuff. So, you're just looking at the images and stuff. It's kind of like,
and reading. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like it's German Expressionism, right? Like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, something like that. Which, really just, inspired so much, throughout the years, in terms of, just kind of style and whatnot. Bram Stoker's, I think his wife had actually taken them to task and said that the estate wanted them to destroy every copy.
And they didn't.
Somehow one of
they didn't.
Yeah, somehow one of them, like, I guess, like, stuck print in their pants or something like that.
Ran out the door
and just like were able to get away with it. I think Nosferatu actually probably got new life because of SpongeBob SquarePants. Let's be real.
Wait, what?
Huh?
What?
Oh,
okay,
you don't remember that?
Connect the dots on this.
Okay, so years ago there was we'll actually put a clip on the show if nobody knows what I'm talking about. But years ago there was a scene where they were in the Krusty Krab and the lights kept getting flicked on and off.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden they go Nosferatu, and he's just like. And ever since then he's been a character on SpongeBob. They like just kind of like superimpose the Orlok character into the show.
Oh my god, that is hilarious.
The other cool thing that's really interesting about this, particular version of Dracula is that, it's more like in line with the occult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to do with, lack of faith or like, somebody that, just kind of like just tore their religion away or whatever.
There's a lot of occultic symbolism in rituals in this. Yes, for sure.
I mean, that's pretty much how this Nosferatu version became a vampire in the first place. Because, through the occult, you know what I mean?
And what I really like in this movie is the fact that they make Nosferatu look like a freaking corpse. He's not beautiful at all. He looks like a walking, talking corpse. And even when he's feeding, he's nude, and it looks like he's while he's feeding.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit, because apparently there's a lot of women out there that are really into him.
Sorry, I'm not into the whole necrophilia thing.
This is a very controlling being, let's be fair. It's not, somebody that gives you like
a choice,
your own freedom.
Right. There is no love. There is no love.
There is no love. He's just an affliction, nothing more, like he says.
He's appetite.
Right. So with that, we're going to get into the story, but I'm just going to have you just basically just kind of just lay it out for people, because it is very similar to Bram Stoker's Dracula. If you've ever seen that particular
Except
film.
For in this one, you have the it's the same, but it's not the same. Mm-hmm. So of course you have a young woman who is afflicted with visions and in dreams, and she's married to a young handsome gentleman who works for like a real estate company or a law firm.
It's like real estate.
Real estate law firm. Anyways, so they're married though. They're not engaged. They're actually married. And she's a very sexual person. She's very expressive. And he wants to make sure that like he can give her everything she wants.
She's ahead of her time.
Yeah, oh yeah, very much so. And then she has a best friend who is like this pure and innocent woman who's married to this super wealthy man. They have 2 kids, and her husband is very controlling.
Right.
But they're all friends. And
I just want to just include.
Well, he's her best friend's husband is friends with her husband, and he just tolerates her because of his wife.
Sure. And I just also want to include too that it's instead of Mina, it's Anna. Instead of Jonathan, it's Thomas. Instead of the suitors that Lucy had in the book, it's like his friend Friedrich. Anna is his wife, his very chaste wife, and instead of Lucy, who, let's be fair, she was a she was a fucking whore, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the exact opposite of that particular character,
right?
But yes.
So he gets this opportunity where he actually has to go to another country to present paperwork to Lord Nosferatu. Was it Ulrich?
Count Orlok.
Count Orlok. Count Orlok. And, his wife has this horrible dream, and she says, don't go. I see death surrounding. Don't go, don't go. And he's like, well, I have to so I can get you the house that you want. She's like, I don't care about that stuff. I just want you here. So you're seeing the loneliness and the desperation in this woman. Like, he is, with him being there, he grounds her because of her gifts, because of her ability to have these dreams where she's seeing things. He goes off to Transylvania, and he ends up staying in this town overnight first, and he happens to see some of the stuff that the Romani people there are actually doing, their traditions. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, like he sees a girl riding on a horse naked. And then he sees them open up a casket and chop off a corpse's head. And he's like, what is this? Then this old lady comes up to him, and she's yelling at him in Romani, and he has no idea what she's saying to him. Well, the next morning he gets up, and it's a ghost town. Nobody's there. Nobody's out and about, moving around, nothing. Okay? So he starts walking. He's got to get up to, he's got to go get up to the castle. He starts hearing wolves. And then all of a sudden, you just see this carriage coming up, and it's like right in front of him, like not slowing down.
Okay.
And he finally picks him up.
So let's stop right there and just kind of go back and break it down. So, as you said before, we're introduced to Anna. Anna's played by Lily Rose Depp. Phenomenal performance. And if she is not nominated for an Oscar, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
She was actually, there was a couple things that she was actually looking into in terms of her performance. There's some sort of Japanese dance called Buto.
Okay.
Which has a lot to do with expressions, things like that. She also looked into the psychology of, women and, having seizures and stuff like that. That's why her eyes roll back and stuff. So all the stuff that she was doing was all pretty much fucking just natural,
acting,
natural acting, all the different, like back bends and stuff that she does and all of that shit. It's just pretty wild to see how much dedication she put into this film. So Nicholas Hoult plays Thomas. And Thomas is a guy who, look, we're in the Victorian era, right? So, like this is a time where, like
women are very much
a man's
oppressed.
world, right?
Yeah.
And men need to do the quote unquote right thing. And the right thing is to make enough money to, provide for your family, provide for your wife. And, while also maintaining the household. So like, so basically women have no agency in terms of, like being able to express themselves even. Because there's a moment in the movie later on where Anna even yells at, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character Friedrich, Thomas's friend you're talking about, and that's unladylike.
Yeah.
And I think that's why his wife is so just buttoned up, because like that's what she's supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
She's supposed to be the wife, the doting wife, the mother. I don't. Basically, like I don't have any control over myself,
Right, I'm not allowed to speak my mind. I'm not allowed to be myself.
Yeah. So as we said, Anna is pretty much ahead of her time, in the regards of, in this period, she's way more of a modern woman than she,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like she would be perfect in our society.
Yeah.
She is just, just this closet case issue in this moment that she was planted into. You know what I mean?
Right.
When it comes to just the men around her, the doctors, that treat her, but she is somebody who is so lonely that, she pretty much was just asking for any kind of comfort, and she was actually praying for an angel, but instead, garnered this darkness, and the darkness wanted her really bad. And oddly enough, she even says it to her husband Thomas. She says, I was quite happy about it. Like I was comfortable with it.
And she even said he was a better lover than you could ever be. Yeah.
Yep. So again, like there are so many inlays when it comes to the character of Kalen Orlok, and it has to do with repressed sexuality. It has to do with, of course, like evil and darkness, but it also has to do with, just, I don't know, just being able to be yourself.
Right.
Regardless of what that is, because she just wasn't, able to do that.
No, she wasn't. She had people like putting chloroform cloths on her face to make her sleep at night so she wouldn't sleepwalk.
Yeah.
Saying, well, if it keeps being a problem, just tie her down to the bed.
And even though Anna was introduced, even in the original 1922 version, she was not the main character. So, what Eggers did was like he gave her
more of a role,
more of the platform, because it made more sense to him that she would be the one to eventually combat the evil through, like selflessness and unselfishness and all of that, I mean, I guess a lot of this movie has to do with,
it's a lot about repressed sexuality and repressed spirituality, the taboo, about a lot about how women had no autonomy.
And you had mentioned it's a monster fucker movie, but I think
it is a monster fucker movie.
But I definitely think it's so much more than that.
It is. But it's like the fact that, Nosferatu even says that he doesn't have the ability to love. He cannot love. He is just appetite. He's, like even in the scenes where you see him feeding, he is literally naked and he's on top of somebody feeding from their chest, and it looks like he's fucking them, and it's like he's feeding right from the heart. I think it's from the heart. He's feeding from the heart.
Yeah. So when it comes to the vampire folklore that like Eggers was looking into, that was something that he was, like, first of all, like the whole climbing on the body thing is very animalistic, but at the same time, like, like I guess feeding from the heart is just very inhuman, and that's probably sense, most likely where the warmest blood would be pumping.
Well, yeah, because it's pumping all the blood.
When he's feeding on, like Thomas the way he is, I guess you're supposed to feel nauseous because, there's no escape for this man. You know what I mean? Like he is.
No, and the thing is,
he's
like,
a sippy cup now.
So, like, you have to realize too, when he gets there, he's like, Nosferatu, quite frankly, is very brusque with him. Says, "You're late. Mm-hmm. It's after midnight, and my staff is already gone."
Yeah.
Pull the paperwork out. Basically, steals his locket that he has of his wife. Takes it from him. Does not give it back. He's like,
he also says, "Not taking care of yourself is a bad omen."
So, like, he even is like, you will call me my lord. That is my status.
Yeah.
So you're also dealing with the fact that this is an oligarchy. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Oligarchy. Of course, which is something you'll learn because that's pretty much what this country's becoming.
He is like a super wealthy man, like part of like.
He's part of the oligarchy. He's part of the 1%.
So this is also could be a representation of how the super wealthy feed on the poor.
Very much so. Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
So that is a good representation of Nosferatu. Mm-hmm. So,
but also too, I mean, it's interesting how, like, he does have to hide in the shadows because of his look.
Because he's so ugly.
You know what I mean?
He is ugly.
It's not like
not pretty at all.
It's not
he looks like a corpse.
Not like Gary Oldman, where you're
with a big ass mustache,
staying alive, going down the cobblestones. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like this guy is beautiful. He's a creature.
He's a corpse, with a mustache. You know what I mean? So,
we get into the whole situation where, like we said, this is Dracula, right? Mm-hmm. We get to the moment where,
but he didn't have brides. He had wolves.
He had wolves, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He had wolves, sure. The creatures of the night, of course. Mm-hmm. Before we get to Wisberg, which is in Germany, that's the other difference. Mm-hmm. It's not set in England, even though everybody's English in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is German.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It worked, I guess. But let's talk about Bill Skarsgård's performance. We've praised him numerous times on many of our shows.
He is such a good creature character. Mm-hmm. He is like, I think there's only a few actors in the world that can pull off character.
He gets a lot of shit because, he's done some movies that people didn't care for. We, in our past shows, we've praised, even The Crow. But, whatever. I don't want to get into an argument with anybody. That's just how we felt. But yeah, he hasn't done hit after hit after hit. But the thing about Skarsgård is that when you are going to hire him, especially for something like this, and he's not a creature actor whatsoever.
But he's great at it.
He goes full tilt. And
he is so great at it.
He was actually supposed to be part of Nosferatu. They were supposed to film like 10 years ago, apparently. And he just kept like pressuring Eggers, like, hey, talk to me. And then he finally got a part, and then the pandemic happened, and then he lost the part. And then, I guess it was the thing where, Eggers was like, I think you could play Count Orlok. And
right?
Bill Skarsgård was like, fuck yeah, dude, absolutely.
Bring it on, brother.
So he went to a opera singer to learn how to get his voice down to the lowest octave that it possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
He actually uses like real, Transylvanian, like inflections in his voice and stuff like that. And he's just completely unrecognizable.
Yeah, you do not recognize him at
Unrecognizable.
all.
He's terrifying.
He is. Yeah.
He's terrifying.
Yeah.
He's such a, I mean, look, he's such a great looking dude, you know what I mean? But like underneath this makeup, you wouldn't even know if he wasn't on the playbill in terms of like knowing that he's in the movie, you'd have no idea.
No clue.
No idea.
Jonathan wakes up and he's on the floor. He sees a bite mark on his chest. Okay. It's daytime. So he's running through and he finds where Nosferatu is sleeping. He opens up this casket and he sees him.
His dick.
And yeah. And
for anybody interested, there is vampire dick in this movie.
I think he grabs an axe, right? And he's gonna go chop off his head. Nosferatu pops up and he pulls and then he calls it. I don't know how, like, his wolves just automatically come up. Jonathan gets up and runs. He runs for his dear life. He closes the door behind him. Well, that didn't last very long because Nosferatu got him again, bites him again, and goes to sick the wolves on him. He jumps out of the castle into the water, goes down back down to the town, and he gets rescued. While this is all going on, you have his wife, who's having massive meltdowns. She's sitting by the water side, waiting for her husband to come back home, and she's not sleeping at night. She's having horrible nightmares. She's having episodes, and she's sleepwalking. And they have this doctor come in. That's when they use the whole chloroform on a rag over her face to make her sleep. And then the guy was like, "Oh, you can always just tie her down if the episodes are getting worse." And this is when you find out that her best friend is a very sweet lady, but she's definitely being controlled by her husband. And in the meantime, on the ship, you have Count Orlok killing everybody on the Demeter. What would have been the Demeter,
right?
Coming all the way back to where his.
By the way, Last Voyage of the Demeter, excellent movie.
Excellent, yes.
Really fucking good.
Everybody is being slaughtered, but here's the thing: not only is it being slaughtered, when this ship pulls into port, rats, tons of rats, and this is representing plague.
He's plague.
He's bringing the plague with him.
He's a virus.
He's bringing the plague with him.
He's every possible thing you can imagine, and that's horrible. You know what I mean? And that's what he is. And you have this. I mean, although like she is wanting to like be able to break free in terms of her sexuality and all that stuff, Anna is very much a pure soul, and he's basically raping it the entire time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because he has that locket, he can connect with her.
Yeah, so and
he's basically he's putting her in a trance and forcing her to do things.
Yeah, exactly. So he is I guess in an interesting way, it's almost like she is
a victim.
Well, not only just a victim, she's a victim, but at the same time she's gaining some sort of agency when it comes to being able to be herself too. You know what I mean? Like she just wants to be banged silly by her husband.
Yeah.
Just something as simple
she's
as that.
She's a newlywed.
Where like back then it would be like, "Oh, I beg your pardon." You know what I mean? Like if I'm not pulling down your bloomers, then that's, you know what I mean? Like, you don't initiate that shit. It just doesn't happen.
Take your knickers off for me, baby.
Yeah, for sure. He is controlling her, but he's not only just, he's not feeding off her flesh at this point. He's just feeding off of who she is. Like,
though he did make her feel when he fed off her husband.
Yes.
He made her feel it and see it. And he made her husband see her when he was feeding off him the second time.
Yeah. So let's talk about Willem Dafoe's character, Professor Franz, who is, basically like, the
occultist.
Nosferatu epitome of Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Right? Not the one that you like, the fucking Hugh Jackman one. I'm talking about, just the Doctor, Van Helsing, right? Think more Anthony Hopkins. But so Willem Dafoe is great in this role simply because he's able to give a performance where, like, you can see that even though this man is supposedly a kook in the eyes of everyone else because he believes in things, that are beyond the pale, that's beyond science and all this other stuff. He is the only one that's able to connect with Anna, not only just as a woman, but as a human being.
Right.
Like, I hear you. I know what you're going through.
You're not crazy.
You're not crazy.
You're not crazy. This is really happening, and you are a conduit.
And I guess, the way that Eggers had done it, isn't it kind of interesting how, like, this sort of kind of, like, feels like, like it could be like the Me Too movement or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a woman just saying, this man is doing this to me, and just everybody's like, oh, come on, he wouldn't do that. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
right.
Yes. I mean, this guy is a predator.
Right. But with them, it's like, no, this thing doesn't exist. Yeah. It's all in your head. You're crazy.
This creature is a predator, and I think that has a little bit to do with it in terms of the parallels of this movie, is that there are men out there that prey on sad women.
Now you see, her husband finally makes it back into town. He's been gone for a while. Obviously, he had to heal because he was very sick of what happened to him. This doctor comes in, and he actually is trying to convince her friend's husband that this is really happening. Well, nobody believes her. Nobody believes him. You find out that the boss of her husband had actually become, he was into the occult and was doing all the occultic stuff.
Renfield.
He's a Renfield. Yeah, he's Renfield. In the end,
which is really kind of interesting because guess who was Renfield that plays Thomas now? Nicholas Hoult was Renfield in the Nicolas Cage version.
Right.
I just wanted to put that out there.
So they realize that they've got to go to Count Orlok's castle, his new place, and they actually have to make sure that they burn everything.
They have to cleanse it.
They have to cleanse it. So they go there, but at the same time, poor young girl realizes she has to submit, and she has to actually sacrifice herself.
Well, let me add something to the equation when it comes to these characters, okay? Because honestly, like, a lot of people will probably write, like, the reason I didn't like this movie because, the men didn't really have, too much to do with the narrative and stuff. I think aside from just the character of Willem Dafoe playing Professor von Franz, the men are supposed to be useless. The men are supposed to be the ones that, are like, we see them and we're just going to be like, oh, like, of course he's going to save the day. No, he's absolutely not. No. Because not only are they weak when it comes to, like, this, particular, like, evil that just, like, envelops everything.
And they're not listening to her.
They're not listening to the women around them.
Well, then not only that, because they didn't listen to her, her best friend and her two kids get killed by Count Orlok.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Orlok comes into the room and literally just, like,
kills the children first and then kills her.
Drinks the kids like a juice box and throws them down to the ground. In front of the mother.
Yeah. Her husband goes off and he's going to go cleanse the castle, the abbey or whatever. And that's when the scene where she's calling Orlok to her.
Come to me.
Come to me. Come to me. Orlok comes to her. She strips down naked and she brings him down to feed, and you can see the ecstasy on her face as he's feeding. Well, her husband realizes, oh my God, Orlok's not here. You guys distracted me.
Hang on a second. We need to circle back a little bit because he goes to visit her and he basically says to her, you've got 3 days. You know what I mean? Like, there is no love in me. I am an affliction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Basically, like, she's cursing him, like, no, I don't want this, or whatever. When she has the conversation with von Franz, she finally realizes, like, her true like purpose, and I think that purpose is for her to become the woman that she wants to be. She has to basically save everyone else because her aura and her blood is so sweet and everything about her is so beautiful that Orlok can't resist her, and she knows this. You know what I mean? And because of that lust and because of that like desire, he would
he chased the sunrise.
He would risk being destroyed by the sun.
He comes and she strips down naked, gets on the bed, and he's feeding off of her. And he's blissed out and she's blissed out, and her husband and the other guys come busting in, and Orlok looks up and he realizes the sun is coming down. She grabs him and brings him back down, and he faces the sunlight and dies.
And she dies. She dies
too.
Arms.
He died. Yep, they die together.
And I see a lot of people that are just like oh gross, but I mean, yes, there is a grotesqueness, obviously.
Oh God, yeah, because you see that whole back end and you see it's a corpse. It's
right, but also there's a beauty to it as well, too. Because Anna, she isn't going to suffer anymore either. You know what I mean? I think the way she's been played by Orlok, I don't think she'd be able to...
he'd been tormenting her whole life.
I don't think she'd be able to pull away from that so easily. I think that would be something that would haunt her for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there would be no doctors or no... there'd be nothing to be able to break her away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, the only thing that would be, the best thing for her would just to go, I think. Yeah. You know what I mean?
In the arms of death.
In the arms of death, literally, yeah.
Yeah.
Phenomenal movie.
Yeah, fantastic.
Every scene you could frame and put on the wall.
And there is one very disturbing scene where the husband, who after he lost his wife, he goes in and he...
does he have sex with a corpse?
Yes, he does.
Okay. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw him open the lid. I thought he was just crying on top of it.
Sex with his wife's corpse.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't catch that part.
Yep.
Maybe that's the part in Nosferatu that goes a little too far. But yeah, wow. I'm so happy that this movie's doing what it's doing at the box office. It's still making numbers right now as we speak. Nobody's expecting that from... something that's just been, adapted maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times over, I would say I am deeply in love with the Francis Ford Coppola version of Dracula. I think this one might top it for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you take away the nostalgia and whatnot, I think everybody's just kind of simpatico with each other in terms of just, even the acting and stuff. Because let's be fair, when you're watching Bram Stoker's Dracula, I love Keanu Reeves, but Gary Oldman's just fucking acting circles around him.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is it for us. I do want to take a moment here to just... well, actually, this kind of dovetails into what our next episode is going to be. But I have not been affected by a celebrity death, since David Bowie, which kind of makes sense because they sort of complement each other. But losing a maestro like David Lynch, really just hurts because of the fact of that nothing unique and original like that is coming down the pike anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was a singular artist. There was nobody like him, and he just danced to his own drummer.
Yeah.
Every single time, to the point where you felt like you were part of the cool kids because you kind of understood it, and the normies are like, this is fucking too weird for me. You know what I mean?
He was very his storylines were very obscure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of it had to do with, the subconscious. A lot of it had to do with, certain, just,
horror.
Well, not only that, but just just the human condition. what he felt about, like suburbia or whatever the case is. Like he just put whatever he wanted onto the canvas, and you either got it or you didn't.
Exactly.
And guess who wasn't going to tell you what it means? David Lynch.
You have to figure it out for your damn self.
So we are familiar with his daughter Jen. We just want to say, Jen, like we are sorry for your loss. You mean so much to me as a friend, and in honor of David Lynch, I think it would be best, because we were going to do Battle Royale, which we will do.
Yeah.
But we want to do Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, because we both agree it is a horror film.
It is a horror film. It is a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
Not in your typical sense, but it is. Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I fell in love with my wife, because that's one of her favorite movies.
Yeah.
Just the fact that she appreciates Twin Peaks.
I appreciate David Lynch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a great loss. It really is. But you know what? Like it says in Eraserhead, hopefully in heavens everything is fine. And with that, we'll scare you later. See you next week with Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
My secret diary. That page is missing. There is no other person who could have known where it was.
Did Bobby give you this? Or is there someone new?
Your Laura disappeared. It's just me now. You made me write it all down.
Don't do that. She doesn't like that. How do you know what she likes? Who am I?
I don't know.
You look just like my Laura.